story tonight, we have a very special guest joining us on the pursuit to find the truth about the origins of COVID-19. Now, across the world, and researchers, scientists from different continents have all been speaking out one after the other. One media house after the other has looked into the origins of COVID-19. More and more people around the world are asking questions. So let me go across to our panelists this evening. We have a very interesting panelist joining us on the show on the biggest story tonight. Dr. Feigl-Ding, who's an epidemiologist and senior fellow, Federation of American Scientists, joining us live from New York. Thank you, Dr. Eric, and Dr. P.S. Venkatesh Rao, who's a consultant endocrine, breast and laparoscopic surgeon, and he's been speaking out against it, has been writing about how it was the Indian researchers who spoke about it in January 2020 first. Now, let me ask my first question to Dr. Eric. Dr. Eric, more and more scientists are now talking about it, asking for the truth about what really happened, where COVID-19 originated from, right? And they're asking for an investigation into the origins of COVID-19. There are reports, evidences, now even money trail being discussed, suggesting maybe the truth was buried. What's your take on that, Dr. Eric?
I think still there's way too much we don't know about the origins. It could be natural, it could be leak, and there is a small chance it could be engineered, but we just don't know. There's a lot of data that shows they didn't use enough protection. They had very poor PPEs. They were some of the scientists were playing with the bats without proper, level 4 biosafety lab precautions. So in certain ways, it's very possible it's a leak, but in terms of anything deeper than that, great claims require a great amount of evidence. And so we just don't have that right now.
Now, Dr. Rao, do we have enough? Do we have enough? I spoke to you a couple of days ago and we discussed this, and Dr. Eric, Dr. Eric also knows about this, because when our IIT researchers put out that paper, and I have the title of that paper, it was posted on bioRxiv. The journal was about the uncanny similarity of unique inserts in the 2019 ENCO spike protein to HIV, GP120 and GAG. Now, that was a paper that was uploaded by the IIT researchers. Now, within days, there was an uproar. The same night, they were trolled, they were cyberbullied, they were forced to take that paper down. Today, the irony is, Dr. Rao, everyone's talking about it.
Yes, quite true. Because there was truth in that. And all these attempts at suppressing various such exposes has succeeded for nearly a year and a half. But now all that is coming out. It is not only that article which was put up in the preprint preview in January of last year. It was also an article in Lancet, which was published by doctors in Wuhan about the patients who were admitted and with proved SARS-2 in a hospital in Wuhan, and that they had asked each of those patients about if they had gone to the wet market, and the first 3 weren't from the wet market. So that article, then there was a third article by an Argentinian who is working in US, and that was a molecular biology study, which also showed that this spike protein of this virus with its furin cleavage site was specific for the human beings. So all these articles from different viewpoints are saying the same thing. And these are all published articles. 2 of them in peer-reviewed journals, and one of them, which was due to all this pressure, they took it down to see if they had made any mistake. They reviewed the article, found nothing wrong in their article. Then they tried to publish it, and no journal at that time, that was January, February of last year, no journal was willing to accept it for publication. It is only now that the people are realizing that there was a lot of truth, because the same material has come out in various journals around the world from different from different researchers. Different parts of that article have been published, and hence we now have proof from different aspects, from the doctors, from the geneticists, from the molecular biologists saying the same thing.
Yeah. Now, let me ask Dr. Eric, Feigl-Ding. Now, Dr. Eric, do you think there was scientists included and a scientific community, a lot of people sort of jumped into a conclusion to sort of rubbish this entire story early last year. But do you think today they've been sort of forced to take a step back and ask questions about what really happened back then, even as we, of course, continue to fight the Delta variant, right? Now, we continue to battle COVID-19, but do you think we were all in a hurry to, dismiss it back then?
I think in certain ways we were a little quick to say it was natural, and in absence of evidence, people just assumed it was natural origin. I think there was definitely a bias towards that. I think people are now stepping back and say, well, let's think about it. Maybe the other lab leak. I think in certain ways, the scientific community is not saying it's bioweapon, but they could say it could be both lab leak of a natural virus or natural contagion that directly infected humans from nature outside of a lab. Right now, I think those are the two main ones. And I think some of the papers last year were kind of dismissed in certain ways. And, some of the researchers who said bold claims have also retracted. We just don't have enough smoking gun evidence. And scientists rarely want to jump to any conclusion until there's actual hard smoking gun evidence or very, very suggestive breadcrumbs. And right now, there's just not enough breadcrumbs. So instead of arguing about if it's bioweapon, I think the discussion is, could it have leaked? Yes, it could have leaked. Could have been natural? Yes, it could have been natural. But let's find the breadcrumbs or the smoking gun to prove either way. And I think what I, as an epidemiologist, worry about the most is not the origin as much per se, but how do we stop it? The pandemic is keep going. The Delta variant is one of the most contagious, has potentially 2.5 to 4 times greater hospitalization. It has greater vaccine evasion, especially for one dose. Those are the crises we need to address the most. And everything else can be a historical investigation to prevent the next pandemic. But right now, we're still in the middle of a pandemic. And India has probably had well over 1 million, maybe 2 or 3 million people who've died in the pandemic. And that's the greatest tragedy and thing that we must focus on first.
The official number is a little over 370,000. That's the official number. I don't know where you're getting your numbers from, Dr. Eric, but that's the number.
The numbers for one. So there's several. The IHME says about potentially 1 million. The Economist has said about 1 to 3 million. Also, several other groups, New York Times groups, have said the central estimate is 1.5, as low as 600,000, but as high as 3 million. There's but the general estimate is well over 1 million of total excess deaths, not the confirmed COVID deaths, which we know is well underappreciated.
Well, Dr. Rao, you want to respond to that?
I think, we have to try and control this pandemic, and the vaccines are the best, and we are trying our level best to get as many vaccines into usage, get there through the regulators, and see how we can ramp up the production of these various vaccines. So, yes. And as to the figures, instead of getting too lost in what the figures are, I think basically we have to save lives, and also to find out where simultaneously people should also look into this getting the evidence and proving it. I feel that there is enough evidence, and ensure that we don't have more of these pandemics coming through from there.
Yeah.
Because I don't agree with the fact that this may be of natural, because the IIT paper very clearly shows that 4 of these inserts are from the HIV virus, which is a retrovirus, and there is no known way in nature that a retrovirus material can land up in a RNA virus. So, and the furin cleavage site is another. He has said about smoking gun. Now, some of the top virologists had earlier, before this whole cover-up happened, said that this is a true smoking gun, because the furin exists as an enzyme in human beings, and it will cleave any protein which has a furin cleavage site. The furin cleavage site has been inserted in the best place for cleavage of the spike protein before the viral genome is inserted into the human.
Yeah. And finally, Dr. Eric, looking at the manner in which we've responded to this pandemic worldwide, and not just in India. Of course, a lot of lessons to be learned in America as well. Like we too have learned some lessons. Now, what are some of the learnings for America, for one, in the fight against such a pandemic? And while you answer that, I just want to add another question, and you can take both maybe. Where do you stand on this issue of the funding? Everyone's talking about it, and I think there are more details, documents now coming out of millions of dollars that were given to EcoHealth Alliance, which was working closely with the Wuhan lab. Now you can answer both questions. You can take it one at a time. One on the learnings, and second on this funding, and whether there are more questions than answers now.
Well, I think first of all, funding. Laboratory scientists, molecular biologists, not just virologists, they do gain of function research worldwide, everywhere. It's not just in China. There's labs that does gain of function research all the time. So the funding, and NIH gives funding worldwide. I don't think it doesn't imply anything whatsoever. There's no real evidence, again, that they were actually developed any bioweapons specifically. Again, I have no bias. I am not pro-China. I'm not anti-China. I think I just want the truth and the evidence, and the smoking gun evidence is still not there. The true biologists and virologists have not said anything that shows that. As for the U.S., I think the U.S. has done really well. It obviously has the most vaccines, a rollout, and it's now donating 500 million doses to the world. I think that's really great. I think the equality is that U.S. cannot be selfish. It has to share the vaccine with the rest of the world in order to prevent further mutations, because this is a global pandemic. We can't just be focused on the U.S. I think that is U.S.'s next major challenge.
Yeah. And finally, Dr. Rao, looking at the G7 response, for one, even Joe Biden, yes, the U.S. president, said that one of the biggest takeaways of this pandemic has been the lack of clarity from China, right? Yes. Now, lack of clarity, yes, and transparency in sharing facts. Now, do you see this, yes, going somewhere? Now, we can talk about what we've learned, what needs to be done, but I think somewhere you will also have to ask questions on whether we all were blindsided by the truth of what really had happened in the first place.
Yes, see, in the past, when the SARS outbreak happened, when MERS happened, there was transparency. There was the details were required, were revealed. The help was asked for. WHO got involved. They properly investigated, and they were able to get it across. These things were controlled far better. Whereas this time, there has been total opacity, there has been denial, rather than revealing what has happened. And right in the beginning, when Taiwan and South Korea, India and all started blocking the flights from China started protesting, saying that why are you doing this? And then WHO also said the same thing. And if you see the performance of WHO this time, it has been so different from the previous times. So we have depended on WHO like we have in the past.
to do its job, which is it hasn't done this time. It has just been mouthing whatever China tells them to mouth. And in the investigation team they sent, they had people with proper conflict of interest, like this act and all. So this is, and now China and this bat lady are saying that there is no evidence, how can we present evidence when there is no evidence? You have cleaned up all the evidence and now you are claiming there is no evidence. And the more you try to hide, the more people are going to lose trust in you, and there is no point saying, please trust us, we have no evidence. How will we trust you when you are trying to, you have taken the entire database about those viruses you had offline. You have not allowed us to look at the medical records of the people who worked in that lab. You have not, you have made claims like that there were no bats here when there are no videos showing there were bats there. You made claims that you weren't doing gain-of-function research when your own publications show that you were doing gain-of-function research and that you had developed chimera viruses. So if you are going to keep denying evidence which is already there, who is going to trust you?
Yeah, I just want to take one.
To this, you will more with it.
Yeah, I had one last question from Dr. Eric before I let you both go. Eric, why is the Delta variant much more dangerous? Now, just before coming into the show, we were seeing that China is reporting a lot of Delta variant cases. And we believe that, China may have actually underreported the number of cases, detected to the Delta variant. Now, they're talking about it now. Why is it so dangerous?
Well, I think the virus adapts. It's not like why, it's just the natural evolution. Why do animals evolve to become better adapted to their environment? And I think they're learning, especially in areas in which there's lots of previous infection, it learns how to kind of pole vault over pre-existing immunity walls. And the virus that mutates the most successfully to do that and can transmit the fastest will inherently take on those properties of being more severe, higher viral load, faster transmission. And that's at the end of the day. I think there's no data whatsoever that the Delta variant is engineered. I'm not sure if you're implying that, but we've seen South Africa variant is very, vaccine resistant. The AstraZeneca vaccine does not really work that well against the South Africa variant. I think the Delta variant is just one of those other things. Viruses learns how to be the most evasive as it can, the most contagious, and survival of the fittest. And in certain ways, that's how viruses really, truly adapt and change. And that how you can go from a bat to some other intermediate animal to humans. That's just what it is. In certain ways, the original Wuhan virus doesn't even infect dogs or cats. But we've learned that, or mice, but we learned that the new B117 alpha variant from UK actually infects animals much better, and it actually could infect mice without a transgenic mice. It just naturally learned how to infect more animals. I think that just shows life finds a way. That's the powerful nature. That's the power of mutation. And now with millions and millions of people infected, we've now have the Delta variant because the virus learned how to adapt to us.
Okay, nice to talk to you, Dr. Eric Feigl-Ding and Dr. Venkatesh Rao. Thank you for speaking to us once again, Dr. Venkatesh Rao. And,
thank you.
And let's see where the story goes. Republic TV has been speaking to researchers, scientists, experts from around the world, and more people today asking questions about what really happened and what should be the way forward in dealing with the next phase of the COVID-19 origin investigation.